play on her next album and everything. I think we have one other guest, and I'm expecting about four total, so that might be our third one. But before we get to that guest, earlier today, me and Dean at the beginning of the show were talking about the way that society is, and the United States has been going through a lot of divisions. Some people feel that it's because of the top leadership and things of that nature. Ireland historically has had that kind of history of there being division, and I was just wondering, is that still an issue, or have y'all gotten past those kind of divisions that used to exist? Because whenever I think of Irish history, I usually think of that whole division between the Protestants and the Catholics and some of that kind of stuff that has gone on historically.
That's an interesting question because I was playing here last night in Durham, and I kind of mentioned that I wanted to do. So the songs I was singing were mostly songs that I'd written, or else my favorite songwriters, people like Richard Thompson or Bob Dylan and people like this, and I wanted to do an Irish folk song because I'm here and I love Irish folk music, obviously. But I was saying that as a kid, I suppose growing up, I would have heard a lot of songs which were called rebel songs, and they were they were celebrating the heroes who fought for the freedom of Ireland. That is how I grew up. That is how I grew up learning those songs. And I suppose for me personally, in the last 15, 20 years, I don't really have a desire to sing those songs anymore. And it's not because I think it's not important. It's not because I think that their stories should be forgotten. It's not that I think that we shouldn't honor those who did fight for the freedom of our country. But I don't think in 2018 they really have a place. Some of them, if anti-British songs or songs, kind of carrying on this sort of hatred, which isn't going to help anyone, So the situation in Ireland quite recently has been fantastic. I mean, it's much better than it was before. There are a lot of programs in place to try and, combat segregation between Protestants and Catholics, and things have really, really changed there. But Brexit is a concern because with Brexit, you'll find that Northern Ireland is no longer part of the European Union, and so there may need to be some sort of, border again between North and South, and nobody on any side wants that to happen because it seems like a kind of a step back for us, But I mean, growing up in the south of Ireland, we were really untouched by all that violence anyway, I mean, as a kid growing up, all the violence that we saw on TV, I don't know why, but it seemed like it was on TV. It was in another country. It was in another place, It was in the north, and it seemed really far away, And it's strange sometimes, I think, that was all happening on this tiny little island, but somehow we managed to remove ourselves mentally from it in the south, I believe. But things are a hell of a lot better than they used to be, and negotiations are ongoing at the moment for the Brexit and how that's going to affect us, and particularly people who live in the border communities on the border between north and south, So hopefully that will be resolved in the right way.
Yeah, definitely. But it's interesting you bring that up, and I'm going to bring in our other guests that I think I heard the bell for as well. But it's interesting you bring that up because the first time, and I know this was many years ago, but it still impacts us as a society, that 9/11 happened. I was actually at a bus stop in Durham, North Carolina, and the car went by. And I was actually working at a radio station, NTU, which is on the campus of North Carolina Central University. So I actually saw the attack on the web. Saw the planes flying in and everything on the web. Once I got to the station and everything, and we were reporting on what was going on, and I was calling friends of mine that were in New York to check on their safety. But what was interesting is when that went by, and even come back to Robin and her creativity, when that went by and I heard the car go by and they were talking about an attack, my mind, and being somewhat of a creative person myself, my first thought was, hey, this is really interesting. This is a replay of like a remake of War of the Worlds. So I did not actually, until I got to the station, put it in the context of it being an actual attack. My mind automatically was going to the creative world and thinking that somebody was having a radio drama. We haven't had radio dramas this forever, so I don't know why I was thinking that, but I was like, oh, this is an interesting radio drama.
That's the thing. You can't imagine that it could even be real. And I guess, thankfully, we're lucky not to have been touched by that, you know. I feel unqualified to speak about the things in Northern Ireland, having not actually lived through those, and I can't imagine how horrific that is, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see what you mean, a kind of a War of the Worlds recreation. Yeah.
Yeah. Dean, bring in the third guest.
All right, the third guest is Ms. Alice Caldwell. Good evening, ma'am. Thank you for calling Straight Talk with Dean and Mark.
We got
hey,
Ms.
how are
Caldwell
you
on.
doing?
Good.
Hey.
It's Ms. Caldwell, and we've got another author on. Hey, what do you know? We've got two authors on the same show, an author and a musician, because, Robin, you have written in your book, which is a mystery. Elizabeth actually is writing more like factual-based stories, but they are humor factual-based stories because Elizabeth Caldwell is a longtime flight attendant. So she wrote a book called Dear Passenger, which seems to be a collection of humor stories based on her years of being a flight attendant. So I was just wondering, Elizabeth, if you could tell us a little bit about what made you decide to write this book, and also I'm curious of what some of the stories were, because I know when I read like little blurbs, it was involving, like, one that I found really funny was a passenger tried to stuff a bag into the bins where we always, if you're flying, you try to put them in there, and apparently it was too big and everything, and he was basically trying to talk back sassy to you, and I loved your comeback answer. And then I know that you've also had some tragic things that you have found on the plane as well. So I was just wondering, how did the book come about?
Well, I've been a flight attendant for a long time, and for some reason, just bizarre things happen to me when I go on trips. So when I come home and we go to a dinner party with friends, or even I'm talking to friends everywhere, every time I see them, they say, Elizabeth, what happened on your trip this time? So I tell them all my stories, and after doing this for years, my friends kept saying, you need to write this down. You need to write these things down. And I've never written anything before, which I know you hate to hear because I think you're the journalism major. It's either you or Dean. You are. But I've never written, since like college. So I started writing down my stories. And I'm from the South. Well, I actually grew up in Cary, North Carolina. And for people up north that are not familiar with Cary, it's CARY, and it stands for Containment Area for Relocated Yankees. Because all these Yankees, all the Northerners keep moving down here, and they don't want to move away. So they kid me about having a southern accent. And Cary's right outside of Raleigh. It's between Raleigh and Durham. So we're right in the middle of North Carolina. But I started writing all these stories down, and so then trying to compile it into a book. I'd love to talk to Robin about how on earth you market a book, because we're doing our own marketing, as you can see, and it's difficult. You know, you've got to get out here and pitch at everybody. But the name of the book is Dear Passenger, Welcome to My Wacky World as a Flight Attendant. And every single time I get on the airplane, people say, well, how many days do you fly in a row? And do you have days off? And how like we'll do a trip to Europe and people say, oh, are you turning right around and going back? And we're half dead, We said, no, we get to lay over. So people don't understand this mysterious career that I've got, And then you've seen all the stuff on the television lately. Everybody's pulling out their cell phone every 2 seconds, So you can't get away with anything on an airplane anymore without everybody recording it. And you all think that all these news things all these bizarre things have only happened in the last few years, because you're sitting in your comfortable recliners in your living room, and I'm the one that is locked up with these crazies. So we get all kinds of things that have happened. And just for instance, I've been flying for over 25 years, and my very first international flight, I was on the flight. We did the breakfast service. I was real proud of myself. I got through everything. And this lady came up and tapped me on the shoulder, and she said, you have got to do something about that rooster. And I said, excuse me, I said, I'm the junior flight attendant here. I'm brand new. I said, I don't do roosters. Because I thought she was kidding. And all the other flight attendants are looking, and the lady said, I am not kidding. That rooster is waking up my baby. So, of course, we all went running out there to see what she's talking about. There it is, cock-a-ding-ding. You know how loud they are? This man had brought a rooster on in a brown paper bag and put it underneath the seat in front of him, just like he'd been instructed to do on the safety demo. Only the safety demonstration is not about live farm animals. You know, it's about your carry-on bag. So that's my very first story to get started with my career. So, and then it just keeps
I have to back up
keeps
here.
on.
Wait a minute. I have to back up here just for 1 second. He brought a live rooster onto the plane. Now, when y'all found out there was a live rooster on the plane, did the rooster have to pay fare later on? Because I'm thinking that roosters are not part of standard fares. I want to know if the rooster had to actually pay fare.
This is you're so funny. This is way before like TSA and everything. You know, this is quite a few years ago, but you're still not supposed to bring a live farm animal on an airplane. So this man, you know, it was a flight from New York to one of the Caribbean islands. So he was taking the rooster for dinner to his family. This was his gift. Isn't that awful? Oh no. Yeah, but you know, we did not, and none of the other flight attendants had ever run into it. And here's my very first international flight, you know, to initiate me to the world of flying.
Well, I brought a sheep with me from Ireland. I thought that was okay.
You brought a real sheep?
I know. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I'm kidding.
No, you don't understand. That's not funny. That we in the United States we call that an emotional support animal, and you can bring anything on an airplane if you get the paperwork filled out. And so don't even. I am absolutely serious. You can, and don't even
do not
get me
encourage
started.
Me.
You can, I know you ought to bring a sheep with you because that would be so. I would add that to my book. You be sure and write it to me, but.
I'm going to make it my life goal to have my emotional support sheep on board with me.
No, you think I'm kidding. This friend of mine took a picture of a kangaroo that is about 6 feet tall. It's bigger than the man who's trying to get it up on the airplane. People have brought on 75-pound potbelly pigs, and that's 3 different major airlines have reported that because their potbelly pig was their emotional support animal. I've got a picture of a turkey on an airplane, and everybody was making bylines about it, like, wow, that passenger sure does look like a turkey. Wow, that passenger's acted like a turkey. It was a real turkey. Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
And then there's a picture of a St. Bernard's head sticking way up out of the seat. Somebody brought a St. Bernard on and put it in a seat. And then recently, a lady tried to bring a peacock on. You know, their tails are about 6 feet long, and she got stopped before they would not let her on, thank heavens. But you think it's funny, but people are bringing on all kinds of bizarre animals, and then we get to deal with them.
And call them emotional support animals. That's just scary that they are calling them emotional support animals. Now, I have to say that you live in Cary, but you live there, because I promised my dad I was going to mention this. You live there with your husband and your 3 turtles. So you actually have some emotional support animals when you come home, because I understand you have turtles. My dad actually used to have turtles. He used to have a big turtle like a tortoise named Buttercup. Yes, I know that's a bad name for a turtle. Don't ask me where Dad got that name from, but he had a tortoise named Buttercup who unfortunately has passed on. He still has turtles in his backyard. I actually called him before starting the show to make sure that I was not being factually incorrect. So he does still have his turtles that he keeps and everything. But how did you get, as a flight attendant, how did you decide to keep turtles? And, you know, I guess because, well, turtles are probably easier to keep because, like, you know, if you go on a flight and leave a cat or a dog, you gotta put them in the kennel. You gotta put them away and have somebody take care of them. You probably don't have that issue with a turtle.
Well, I have a dog too, so I love my dog. But